morning, everybody. It's a gorgeous Saturday. Yes, a Saturday morning here in the metro Atlanta area. I hope everybody's having an awesome day. My computer says it's only 74 Fahrenheit, which I don't know if that's just because it hasn't updated in a sec. Oh, it hasn't updated. It's now 81. We gained, 7 degrees in 3 seconds. So 81, we're supposed to get a high of like 85 today. It's been fairly temperate for Saturday. For Saturdays. For summer these past few weeks. Or, yeah, mostly because it's been raining a lot and heavy a lot. It's been raining so hard. I believe it was Tuesday I went to Bojangles to grab some dinner because I didn't feel like cooking. And when I went into Bojangles, it was threatening to rain. As soon as I got my food, it was like a waterfall outside. I mean, I parked next to the door because I knew that I was going to be pretty close. I was damp for the rest of the night because I got so wet in the 4 steps from the front door to my car. And yeah, and then on the way home, it was raining hard except for like 2 areas of like a 50-foot diameter where it was perfectly dry, which is normal for this state. Oh, and I'm a little sore. My low back has been on the spaz because they put us in, or yeah, they put us. My boss made us sit in an area that doesn't have good chairs, doesn't have adjustable desks. So, me being a slightly larger than average person, and I'm meaning in height. I mean, I understand I'm larger in width. It was a nightmare. The desks were so low, and the chair was low, and my low back has just been spasming. So I'm going to go to the chiropractor after this. I didn't want to go before this because I didn't know, how backed up they might be and anything else. And I know they close at 1, so I've got plenty of time after the live to go run over there. And by run, I mean drive. Good morning, Charlotte, who says it's 76 in Texas right now with a high of 86. That's about, like I said, what our temperatures are supposed to be. It's been muggy and crazy all day. Good morning, Kathy's Quilts and Crafts, it's her first time here. Welcome! I hope you are enjoying the channel. 58 in Washington with a high of 80. That sounds kind of nice. I like the cooler temperatures. It's a lot cooler works better for me than warmer. I mean, I don't care if it gets too hot, but as I like to tell people, I can only take so many layers of clothes off, especially in the office. Good morning, Kitty Crafts, who has coffee in hand. That is awesome. Good morning, Deb. So, past few weeks, we have been working on blocks for the Fort Worth Fabric Studio as the crow flies so long. In fact, grab it. I have what we've made here in hand. I also have other finishing fabrics over here because this week, which I do have it printed. I was like, did I print it? We are doing the finishing of the quilt, and it is putting the stuff that we already have together, and then a couple borders. So it's going to be fairly easy. I think I'm just going to do the center field of it on our live today because I'm always meticulous with my borders, and I didn't go and figure out what the measurements should be for the inner border. So since I don't have that number, I don't know what to cut, and I did not cut it last night. And like I said, my back has just been crazy all week, so With a crazy back, I do not want to do any extra standing over the cutting mat than I have to. I was over there last night getting the last couple things cut, and if I'm standing up perfectly straight, it's fine. The moment that I try to bend over just a little bit while sitting, my back is like, you need to stop that. So, chiropractor, here I come. Good morning, balloonist from hot and muggy Arizona. I did not realize monsoon season started this early because I thought monsoon season was like end of August. But John from Guys Craft 2 said, they had a monsoon coming through last week, so maybe monsoon season is early. Let me get shifted over to sewing setup. So I've got these blocks. They're being sashed and put together with these strips. And then I have these blocks that are corner blocks. So let's see what I can get done. I did do some magic of television and pre-stitch some pieces together, so we won't have all the pieces being sewn live here. But we will be showing all the examples of everything just so that everybody can see what's going on. Good morning, Donnell. You ended with Sean. Almost on time, I see. I had fun listening to you and Sean chit-chat about your shenanigans. So these sashing strips are going on each side of, they're going on one side of all the crows. And then when we get everything sashed on one side, they get sewn in pairs. And then once the pairs are sewn, then the last side that's remaining gets a sashing strip. Essentially, three sashing strips and 2 blocks gets us a row. Good morning, Colleen. Who's not keen on holiday projects, but loves this fabric collection. This has been a great fabric collection. It is called Sophisticated Halloween through Riley Blake. So everything is sashed on one side. I'm going to press these open. I don't need my starter stopper. Good morning, Jen. How you doing today? Is anybody working on some awesome projects? Is anybody sewing along with this with us today? I think this is my first official Halloween quilt that I will be finishing. I say it that way because I have purchased a few Halloween quilts in the past. I even have a Fat Quarter Shop, their Halloween box, spooky box kit that I'm like, I need to get this done. It's been sitting over there, hasn't been touched yet. So one day I will get that done. So I'm going to sew this together, and I like to sew the seams on the bottom. So I'm just going to flip it. I have seen in the Fort Worth Fabric Studio Facebook page many renditions of this quilt top. Some people had all the crows just facing the same direction. That was a cool layout because the crow blocks are square. So even though they kind of look rectangle, they are square. So people would, some people made all the crows go the same direction. The pattern has the crows going in a circle, which is the way I'm finishing it. So there's a lot of interesting ways that I have seen people put. I've also seen someone who accidentally went the wrong direction with one of their rows, and it looked awesome. They're like, yeah, I'm not going to change it. So we've got, as I'm showing, we've got a sashing on one end, a crow block, sashing in the middle, a crow block. We need to put sashing on the other end as well. I need to flip this so it goes the right direction. And if we make 4 just like this, we will have a portion of our border. And I hate to call it a border, but it technically is, because it's a border of blocks. And I kind of got off just a hair. Okay, that's more than a hair. I need to rip a couple stitches. I'm glad I caught that before I got too far. Good morning, Jen. Good morning, Amy C. How you doing? Yeah, I was right up against the edge of the fabric here. But it's just a few stitches that I have to pop. There we go. And I'm going to line it right back up. And I'm going to start a little bit back just so that I know that I'm going to catch everything. And now I'm just going to make sure that I'm properly lined up. There we go. See, mistakes can happen. And you catch them soon enough, they're not that bad. Good morning, Laura Lynn of Mom and Pop Quilt Shop. How are you doing this morning? She loves to pop around the channels in the morning. Good morning, Barb, who's from Michigan. Charlotte's working on leader floss for her new Grace Q. Ooh. Katie Crafts is trying to convince herself to be productive, but not listening. Barb is asking if I'm putting it together like the pattern shows. I am. I did see that post that you're talking about with all the crows right side up, and that looked really cool too. But you know, I like one of the best worst movies out there is Sharknado, so I'm gonna call this like a Crownado. Since the crows are going to go in a circle. And I gotta get this one pressed. It's also been great seeing all of the selections that um, of the center panel that people have done. Those are fun. And what's also been fun has been the handful of folks who purchased the pattern but not the kit and did it with their stash to see what they did for the center panel. That was also a because I was like, if you're using a panel, how would you be able to do this on your own with your own fabric? And there were some awesome things. Jen says Sharknado is so campy. It really is. Cronado, the murderer, is circling. Amy is being productive, but not what she'd be productive on. Go back to it once she finishes that shirt. Unless she sees something shinier. Ooh, shiny. So, since I now have basically the row, and I've got a couple more already done, like I've said, I'm putting a Sawtooth Star block. I forget what block they called this in the, this was week 2 block, on each side of this. And that will give us our top and bottom rows. And then we can put it all together. And speaking of Sharknado, if you haven't seen Sharknado, but you love stupid movies and lots of cameos, I really do suggest watching Sharknado. Don't expect a good movie. Do not expect anything to make sense, but expect a lot of hilarity and just, like I said, a lot of cameos. And they had so much fun making the movie. And I think there's 6 of them in total. I haven't seen number 6 yet. But each time the number of cameos just gets bigger and bigger. I am a fan of just basically the bad camp movies like that. Campy movies. What was the movie? It was I think it was Mega Python versus Gatoroid. I think that was the movie. It had Debbie Gibson and Tiffany. The two top artists from the 80s. And there was a singing monkey. And they had a fight at one point, and they end up like wrestling down each other, getting into the lake, and one of them goes, shh, 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 do you hear that? And the other goes, no, I think we're alone now. There doesn't seem to be anyone around. And I just lost it, laughing hysterically. Because again, those type of movies, they don't take each other anything seriously. And it's hilarious. Kathy's Quilts and Crafts just finished her Boo wall hanging from last year's spooky box. That was a really cute one. I thought about buying the box when I saw the wall hanging, but then I was like, I have way too many boxes and stuff, and I just need to get the stuff that I have done. Like with a lot of their boxes, I would prefer to be able to just buy the pattern and the kit as opposed to the notions that end up involving in the box. And it's mostly because I've been quilting for think it's been 16 years now. And I have notions. I have notions galore. And especially I had the So Sampler box for like 3 or 4 years. So I have all of those notions. The notions are great when you are just starting out. But once you've been quilting for a number of years, you don't need all those extra notions. You find what works for you. It's worse when you have multiple copies of the same notion, because if you've got multiple subscription boxes, or if it's been long enough since the last time they released that notion. I don't know how many 4-inch square rulers. And what I like about the Fort Worth Fabric Studio subscription box is they give the full project. With the So Sampler boxes, I still had to add my own fabric to the project in order to get it done. And if I didn't like the fabric, I was just collecting fabrics and stuff. Good morning, Stephanie. So I have a row done. And like I said, through the magic of television, I have the bottom row done. And I have 2 sides. So now we can get the center put together. How many pairs of tiny scissors do we need? Apparently 1 more than I have, because I can only find 2 right now, and I know I've got like a dozen. They just keep getting lost for me. Good morning, Kathleen. How are you today? Okay, I'm going to put this over here. Here's the center panel. And I'm going to put the 2 sides on the center panel. And this one I'm probably going to clip, just to make sure I don't go too far. Make sure nothing stretches. And when I clip, what I do is I line up the corners, and I'm clipping on the fabric right now where the seam is not. So I want to first I make sure the edges are in, and then I start clipping the seam. So I will fold it in half to get to the center, line it up, and clip that center. And then if I need to clip any additional, I clip them like halfway again. I don't think I need to clip, but I will clip, because more clips are not as bad as fewer clips. Kathleen said she got back from Woodstock. Oh, Woodstock is a town just north of us. Kathleen apparently lives somewhere in the metro Atlanta area, because she's doing the same Saturday sampler as, well, one of the same program, may or may not be the same colorway as I am. And next week I will be returning back to Saturday sampler mode, and we'll be working on the Saturday sampler block. Kathleen had a church thing in Woodstock this morning. There's like a water tower or something in Woodstock that almost looks like a UFO. I think it's in Woodstock. That almost looks like a UFO. I think. Well, I think it's in Woodstock. I know there's a water tower somewhere that looks like a UFO. Because I have friends who call that Jesus from not Jesus from Space, Six Flags Over Space. Because there's a church that's just south of us on 75. It's a giant church, gorgeous church, and I call it Six Flags Over God, just because of how large of a church it is. And I've had people be like, okay, what is Six Flags Over God? And then they'll drive by and be like, oh, I get it. Dale says some of us older folks went to another Woodstock. Laura Lynn says she's missing a bunch of stuff. She's trying to figure out lunch. What are we getting for lunch, Laura Lynn? So that's one side done. Other side. And for anybody who is worried about directionality with their prints, the good thing is my crows don't have directionality. Yeah, I'm doing this right. I think. I am not doing this right. Oh. Now I have to make a decision. Because the pattern shows the crows on the outside, and I sewed the crows on the inside, and I think I want the crows to be on the outside. So I get to rip out another seam. I'm going to sew this seam though first before I rip out the other. So I can have a little bit of accomplishment before, the torture of doing a quick seam rip. Some call Woodstock First Baptist Church Camp Jesus. And the main reason why I am flipping the direction and not doing how I sewed it is because that's going to be too much white space on the outside, in my opinion. So I'm just going to do a quick rip of this afterwards. And then I'll correct that. It's not a big deal. Toasted tomato sandwiches. Ooh, that sounds good. Sometimes I think I need to grow a tomato plant or two until I realize I might end up having 70,000 tomatoes, which is too much for one to eat. Where is my other leader? Ender. As Sean and Donnell said, today must be National Seam Ripper Day. Amy would happily take extra tomatoes. There's also a lot of work that's associated with growing tomatoes. My neighbors are trying to grow, or were, I don't know how successful they made it, a handful of plants. Okay. Now that I've got this pretty good, I should be able to just slide. I always fear sliding this because, like, especially at a intersection, it might go in the wrong area. And the last thing we want is a hole in our fabric. And I am not one of those crazy people who will just rip two pieces apart like I've seen Miss Jenny Doan do. It terrifies me every single time. Good morning, Dale, who says, hey, everyone. I'm just doing a quick seam rip because it's been declared to be National Seam Ripper Day. I'm going to have to send a message to Sean later saying he started it. But, I just like it to go. Everybody makes mistakes, even those of us who are on YouTube who like to share our experiences. We have experiences with mistakes as well. I got a handful of stitches left. There we go. Amen to National Seam Ripper Day. Okay. This seam, take 2. Put this side on it. And again, I'm going to clip the 2 ends. Just so that I know that these are square. And lined up properly. And like I said, this is how I do my borders as well, or any long seam. Yes, Donnell, Jack is paying me a visit too. It's National Seam Ripper Day. I feel bad for anybody else who's going live today. Okay. I'm going to do it this way. It was only a couple minute detour. It's not like I had to rip out an entire set of blocks. And the effort to rip out is directly proportional to your seam width. And I do about a 2.0 for my seam width, seam length. That's the word, length. So I have a few more stitches. When you are doing paper piecing, you want like a 1.8 to a 1.6. But I've seen people go as tight as a 1.2. And the reason why you want a tighter seam length in paper piecing, foundation paper piecing, is so that you can cut through the paper. The more times the needle stabs the paper, the easier it is to rip. And if it's easy to rip, you're not going to be impacting the thread in between. So, but the problem is if you have to rip foundation paper piecing like that, it becomes a nightmare to rip. It becomes a nightmare because you've probably ripped your paper. So it's a fine line between what you're working on and what your intent is. I pressed that the wrong direction. And the only reason why it's the wrong direction is I know how I pressed the top and bottom. I press the top and bottom inward, so I want the middle to go outward. And when I have these larger pieces, it's harder to press on my really small mat that I have over here. Alrighty. Amy says she'll be using Jack on her shirt, but thankfully did basting stitches first, so that'll be better. Now I'm confused again. There's somebody outside that I have no idea who it is. They're parked in, I think, a technically illegal spot, but they're about to leave. So I'll have to rewind my camera to see what happened, because that happened last week. It's proof that you need to see the whole story, not just what your eyes see. I had happened to look out my window and I saw this lady guiding what appeared to be a drunk man into the passenger seat of the car, and then she gets in the driver's seat. So I was like, well, maybe she convinced him to not drive, and they swapped spaces. I had no idea what was going on. But then they got in and they turned around and drove off, and that was just very confusing. And I was like, this makes no sense. Why is there like a drunken scene happening in the neighborhood? So I then rewound my cameras, and what had really happened was somebody was walking, an older gentleman, and he had slipped, tripped, and fell in the road right in front of the house. And somebody was driving, and she managed to see him fall. So she helped him up, got him into her car, and said, I'm assuming, let's bring you home. And I was like, that's a better ending and explanation than what I had thought that I had seen. So yeah, it was just a little weird, and I'm happy that it was better than what I had thought I had seen. So now we're going to do the top and bottom, because this is now basically a giant 9-patch. And I know this seam is going to nest together, so I'm going to clip here. And I know all the way on this end, this seam is going to nest together because of how I pressed. And that's how I know the row should hopefully line up. Then I can come over here, line up this edge with the squares like I did earlier. So I'll clip it here and about halfway down. Same thing on this side, because I know this is going to be lined up evenly. Up top and about halfway down. And then I want to get something in the center, so I can line the edges up. And that'll be the center. And now everything should just basically ease into place. Line up the corners. I need to text my coworker again. His oldest child did 2 camps this summer. One camp was cooking, and the other was sewing. And it was because, well, the coworker was like, you're not going to stay home all summer and just do nothing. We want you to do at least something, and maybe we could get you a hobby. That would be pretty good. So the child's two, I would say, interests based on the programs that they were shown were cooking or sewing. Cooking because it's fun. Sewing because they're interested in potentially cosplay stuff. So they made a bag for the project. I don't know whether it was like a messenger bag or uh, like a grocery style bag, beach bag, something like that. Because I haven't seen it, but the coworker said that his child is very excited about the bag, even though it didn't come out exactly how they wanted. And I was like, I want to see this bag because I recently did my first pattern bag. I did the panel bag a few months back, but I don't consider that. While I consider it a project, I don't consider it a full intent masterpiece because it was cutting and sewing the lines that they had chosen. I didn't get to make any decisions in the pattern. And it was like, honestly, 5 seams it felt like. So I was like, I want to see what this bag was because I know bags are not easy for a first project, especially if you're just learning to sew. And he was supposed to get a picture, and I haven't seen it yet. So I want to see this bag. Especially with as proud as I've heard the child is of it. Good morning, Maritz's Yarn and Crafts. I hope you're having an awesome day. One day I want to learn how to crochet again. That day is not anytime soon. I still have too much fur that would end up showing itself on any projects. Okay, the top is on. So now time for the bottom. And I just saw, I don't know where I saw it. I saw one of my, what are those things called? Leader enders hanging on it. And again, I'm going to do the same thing because this is just like borders. I know this seam is going to nest. So I'm putting a clip here. I know this seam is going to nest. And also, if I like the bag that they did, I'm going to be like, okay, what's the pattern for the bag? It would help if I lined up on the wrong one. I was like, why are these seams not lining up? Meaning they're pressed in the wrong direction to each other. I was lining the wrong seam to the wrong seam. But yeah, if I like their bag, I'm going to say, is the pattern one of them that's easily purchasable? Or was it the instructor gave you every step of the pattern, which I know those happen. Barb said yesterday she stitched dog fur into one of the seams on her quilt border. I hope the dog was not attached to the fur at that time, because that sounds painful on the doggo. The other day I pulled quite a bit of undercoat out of Percy, because he's not getting, the grooming that he normally would have. I'm gonna have to yell at Riley. She's not grooming her brother like is necessary. As if Riley's tongue would be acceptable. Good morning, Loretta. Thank you for just subscribing. Wait. You're crocheting while watching. I first read that as while walking, and I was like, how are you crocheting while walking? I can barely, walk and chew gum at the same time. My mom crocheted like a mad woman. She had all the muscle memory of everything. So when she she can read the handful of lines of the pattern, and once she gets that committed to memory, she could be watching TV, she could be having a conversation, and her fingers are just doing the work. She doesn't need to even look at what she's doing. She knows where the stitches are and how to get. And I was like, how do you do that? She goes, I don't know. That's just how my hands work. Whereas I know when I'm doing, definitely when I'm doing, what's the word? Hand binding. That's the word. I cannot focus on the TV while I stitch. Otherwise, I will stab myself in the fingers. But I'm wondering, if I can learn how to crochet, and in some cases it's just relearn, because I was able to do a chain stitch and a single crochet and an Afghan stitch many years ago. And but if I can get back into figuring out how to do that, I'm sure my fingers will just do the thing that they need to do. It would probably be interesting bringing, crochet stuff to work on while I'm at lunch. I can just see my coworkers. What are you doing? I have nothing better to do. Because I am not bringing a quilt to hand bind in the office. Because I've brought some of my quilts into the office for like a mini trunk show, and they were, and I know it was mostly joking, but some people you can't fully trust, but they were threatening to have legs growing. And like I said, I know most of the people, especially that I work with directly, would not swipe my quilt. But I can imagine somebody who doesn't work with me and has no ethics thinking about it. Amy says she has a crochet scarf pattern that is really easy. Nice texture and wave. The scarf that I made when I was first learning, good golly, my hair is doing some stupid things. It was just a single crochet, so it had no texture. And my hair yesterday was perfect without any product in it, and today it's like I don't want to do a thing. Probably because I'm sitting here on live. Oh, I gotta get these clips out, and I can show you the center of the quilt. All the crows are flying around, and then like the corner blocks, all the crows I managed to get going in the correct direction. They're all directional. And then let me pull this off. And according to the pattern, there is a inner border, which is this fabric. And then there is an intermediate outer border of these fabrics and these squares. And then there's a final outer border of this fabric. And when it's done, I can get it onto the quilting machine. And like I said, I would just go ahead and start these, but since I don't have the dimensions yet mathed out on what this is, I'm not going to try to figure this out. Plus, like I said at the top of the hour, my low back is killing me from sitting in a chair that is too small for me for 4 days. So I'm going to go try to head to the chiropractor and say, hi, can you, try to put my back into place again? And maybe after that, just take a little bit of a rest. And then I come back in here and start working on this pattern again. If you want to see the update as to what I have gotten done, I will share that on my vlog tomorrow. That will be coming out into the evening. So I will be able to show if I got them done, or if I didn't get the finishing done, how close I got to getting it done. It's, like I said, it's just technically 3 borders yet left, so it shouldn't take me too long, but we will see. It just all depends on how crazy my low back is going to feel for the next couple hours. I did take some back med relief pill, and we'll see if that does anything. Thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, I'm hoping that feels better. I'm officially going to be telling my boss I'm not going to go sit in any location that does not have adjustable desks and chairs that are tall enough for me. In fact, we found out that, even though our desks are low, my desk was still like just barely lower than the desk that my boss was sitting in. And your legs are supposed to be at a 90-degree angle when you're sitting there, and I was below a 90-degree angle. Again, I'm taller than the average person, and I get it. Everybody else in my team, they are, I say, on the shorter side. My coworker says more average height, so they fit a lot better in those desks, and I didn't. So hopefully, like I said, the chiropractor, I think just one more visit today will probably get me fixed up mostly, and get me back on my schedule. So hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Make sure you go visit all the YouTubers out there that are streaming today, so you have somebody to sew with throughout your day as you need it. And I hope to see everybody later. Toodles!